Today, November 6, 2020 marks 38 years since President Paul Biya's accession to power after a peaceful transition from the then President Amadou Ahidjo. 38 years after, there has been achievements galore in the socio-political life of the country and challenges too. And over in America, the presidential election is yet to announce the next president of the United States as vote counts continue and the Democratic challenger Joe Biden takes the lead in some key states. Plus, sports. Cameroonian judo athletes are set to battle their opponents from 14 African countries for the medals and additional points to qualify for the Olympic Games. Hello, good evening and welcome to the 7:30 News. I am Benin Bumagana in Yaoundé.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
As we heard in the headlines, today marks 38 years since President Paul Biya acceded to power in Cameroon. For the past 38 years, he has concentrated his policies to maintain peace in a country which has had its own fair share of socio-political troubles. As you say, Ebenezer Akanga.
Under the leadership of President Paul Biya, Cameroon has been a haven of peace.
He is always preaching peace. He talks peace to the youths, to the elderly, to everybody. He speaks peace.
President have really chose peace as the first factor, the first value to promote the way to development.
There has been serious challenges to peace in Cameroon, notably the ghost towns in the early 90s, the Bakassi conflict, Boko Haram terrorism, and the socio-political upheavals in the northwest and southwest regions. President Biya has always opted for dialogue and openness in resolving disputes.
When our country has faced some situation as, let's say, socio-political crisis by the years 1991, he offers and he made the option to gather, to put together, let's say, sons and girls of this country.
In 38 years, President Paul Biya has not only been working for peace, but also for development and nation building.
Look at our stadiums or stadia that he has caused them to be constructed. The roads, so many things, the seaports, and so many big projects.
Paul Biya and Cameroon have come a long way in 38 years, but the target fixed by the head of state is emergence by the year 2035.
The transition of power in November 1982 from Amadou Ahidjo to Paul Biya was peaceful and smooth, and this meant a lot for many people. While most saw in the transition a new dawn of political life for Cameroonians, others harbored the fear of the unknown. But that was just for a moment. BrigadeAntiSardinard.
Professor Emeritus Patrice Menuka Ekani was a doctoral student of history in France when he learned on November 6, 1982 that Amadou Ahidjo had resigned as president of Cameroon and handed over power to Paul Biya.
Cela a été pour moi comme une bombe.
To me, it was like a bomb, but I was not bothered because I was the subsection president of UNC party for East France, where representatives of opposition parties, especially UPC and Manidem, were hostile to the regime back home, which I represented. According to them, there was no difference between Ahidjo and Paul Biya.
Qu'est-ce qui a changé donc au Cameroun?
But he was relieved by the difference that came so fast.
Vous avez écouté.
I asked them whether they listened to the speech of Paul Biya on rigor and moralization, which we can refer today as common interest first and governance.
To others, it was a dawn of social and political freedom.
UPCiste que je suis.
I am a member of UPC by blood and remember the coming of President Paul Biya as President of the Republic of Cameroon as one who permitted all those who were in political exile to return to the country. 80% of those who were in exile were UPCists. I cannot forget it.
On ne peut pas oublier cela.
1982 to 2020 is 38 years of President Paul Biya at the Supreme Magistracy of the state.
So we're looking at 38 years since President Paul Biya has acceded to the helm of the state. He has been able to maintain Cameroon in one piece despite numerous challenges. Beyond these, President Paul Biya has impacted the political, social and economic spheres of the country. Chief Unity Palace correspondent Ashu Nyenti reports.
Political connoisseurs have described this man, President Paul Biya, in the words of Winston Churchill, as being a riddle wrapped in a mystery, inside an enigma, an inscrutable personality always talked about but never really understood. Just because I keep quiet does not mean I have nothing to say. Indeed, in 38 years, Paul Biya has a lot to say about his achievements at the helm of this country. Upon assuming office, he immediately rolled out what is his political mantra, standing on 5 pillars: rigor, moralization, democracy, social justice, and diplomatic outreach. One of the goals I set for myself on November 6 is moralization. Do you think we are there yet? As far as I'm concerned, no. And the president has walked his talk. Little wonder that the fight against corruption and the prevarication of public resources, with visible results over the last 2 decades, is a cornerstone of his administration.
J'ai donné des directives au gouvernement, au Premier ministre, au ministre des Finances, au ministre de la Fonction publique.
I have instructed the government to take this fight one notch higher. We cannot be fighting against poverty and allow people to embezzle public funds. Yes, fighting poverty by divesting the central administration of the powers of local governance in favor of councils and regions is empowering the decentralized structures to play a major role in poverty reduction and indigenous decision-making.
Les consultations que j'ai menées, mais aussi
my conviction that our fellow citizens desire greater participation in managing their affairs, especially at the local level, has been strengthened by the consultations I've held and the many opinions and suggestions I have received. With the regional elections now in the home stretch, Paul Biya will put a cap on the full decentralization of Cameroon and a new form of local governance, special status in the English-speaking regions of Cameroon. Despite the monstrous adversity and multiple crises, the president has consolidated democracy, steadied economic growth, produced an infrastructural metamorphosis in roads, stadia and all, and enhanced Cameroon's international standing. In this, the president has ensured that the interest of Cameroon prevails. The esteem and awe that Paul Biya inspires in the international scene are a testament to this reality. He has been able to employ his diplomatic savvy to get Cameroonians occupy strategic positions on the world stage. But if there is one thing that the president has spent 38 years to nurture, mature, and give exposure to, it is the country's unity project. The president has been up to multifarious security challenges, some of which have threatened the peace and unity in the country, but he has remained unshakable. I ask again, are we going to jeopardize the national unity we fought so hard for, which is at the very foundation of our country? Let's be clear about it. That cannot happen. Given that the country has not lost even an iota of its territory to Boko Haram and other obscure forces, is an endorsement that President Paul Biya has lived up to his constitutional responsibilities.
Thank you very much, Ashu Nyenti. Let's go over to Douala now, where the region counts bridges, roads and housing facilities which contribute to the economic development of the country, all thanks to the 38 years of the New Deal. Salie Benenyoke reports.
The magnificent second bridge over the Vuri River in Douala, the economic capital, is one among many infrastructural achievements of President Paul Biya during his 38 years in power. The more than 800 meters long and about 34 meters wide bridge, which comprises a road and rail, is a concretization of one of President Paul Biya's campaign promises to make Douala a modern city in Central Africa. This bridge connects the west entrance into Douala at Bonaberi with a modern constructed road, which has eased traffic flow and boosted economic activities with tangible results. The east entrance into Douala, linking Dokpasi to the seaport as well, has received a facelift with an imposing flyover, sidewalks and well-designed roundabouts that have beautified the city and significantly reduced congestion. Added to these are sports infrastructures, the most prestigious being the Japoma Stadium, to host matches for upcoming competitions. These projects, alongside the low-cost houses at Banga Bakoko, make up President Paul Biya's socio-economic blueprint for Cameroon to emerge by 2035 under the 3 years emergency plan to fast-track economic development.
And the National Decentralization Council has seen major changes in its structure after the signing of a decree by the head of state last November 3. The decree reorganizes the management count structure of the organ and reoriented its functioning as well. Beatrice Losamba presents the council, which is to follow up on the implementation of decentralization in Cameroon as per the November 3 presidential decree.
The November 3, 2020 presidential decree repeals the former of January 17, 2008, organizing the National Decentralization Council. With it comes a major change on the functions of the council, now given greater responsibility and powers. Apart from being the government's eyes on decentralization projects about which it submits annual reports, the council is also expected to give recommendations on the transfer of powers and resources, and now proposes a fraction of the state budget to be allocated to the process each year, besides acquiring other powers that will enable it keep a closer watch on the evolution of the state of decentralization. Headed by the Prime Minister, his vice, the Minister of Decentralization and Local Development, now equipped with a permanent secretariat and enlarged with participation from members of the Senate, Parliament, local and regional councils as well as members of government, the financing of the council's activities is incumbent on the Prime Minister's office. Members have no salaries but sitting allowances per sessions. The council holds 2 ordinary sessions a year and as many extraordinary sessions as convened by the president.
On this day that marks the 38th anniversary of President Paul Biya's accession, the mayor of Yaoundé 3 Council, Lucas Owona, has been evaluating the progress of some projects in the council area. He says, like President Paul Biya, him and his council executive will do all to set up development in the council. Romeo Kenya reports.
Ever since the new council executive of the Yaoundé 3 took over command, the construction of classrooms, water points, tarring of roads, and the provision of other social amenities have remained top projects for the local population. On the occasion of the 38th anniversary of the New Deal government this November 6, the mayor, Lucas Owona, and other councillors alongside administrative authorities took turns to evaluate work progress at each site.
It was just to highlight to the community that the council executive is working and to see the efforts that the executive is putting in place to solve their daily problems. In
a bid to heighten decentralization, a renovation of the Nsam market, construction of a new town hall, likewise the persistent fight against the dreaded COVID-19 pandemic feature amongst priorities. Reason why face mask, soap and other sanitary kits were handed over to inhabitants and institutions. Meanwhile, minimum packages were offered to schools in the locality for a smooth academic year.
Over in Batie, in the Upper Plateau Division of the West Region, CPDM party supporters rallied around Honorable Bernard Fongang to condemn the brutal killing of students in Kumba and pledge their unflinching support to the head of state, Paul Biya. Details with you, Chanceline Nandie in Batie.
The usual pomp and fanfare characteristic of CPDM celebrations was absent in the Upper Plateau North-East section of the party in Batie, partly because of barrier measures imposed by the COVID-19 pandemic, and secondly because of the gruesome murder of school kids in Kumba on October 24.
Aujourd'hui, nous célébrons un homme Son Excellence Paul Biya.
Today, we are celebrating a man, President Paul Biya. We are celebrating a nation, Cameroon. We are celebrating in happiness and in sadness because of what happened in Kumba. We are saying enough of it.
During the event, the supporters of the party were edified on the important role of decentralization in development and what will obtain after the December 6 regional elections. The Upper Plateau North East section of the CPDM had as honored guest the special advisor at the presidency of the Republic, Professor Luke Sinjun, and the SDO for the Upper Plateau, Yampen Usmanu.
Over in Akonolinga, that is here in the Central region, the supporters have renewed their commitment to the ideals of the party as they observe the 38th anniversary of President Paul Biya's accession to power. Amongst the many achievements they praised is the decentralization process in the country, which is well advanced. Constantine Baum reports.
Deepening and accelerating decentralization to make local authorities more inclusive and sustainable development hubs at the grassroots is one of the major thrusts of the 7-year Great Opportunities term of office of the head of state, His Excellency Paul Biya. If the municipal councillors, who are key stakeholders in the process, lack the capacities to implement the devolved powers, it will handicap the process, reason why the local authorities of Akonolinga Council are using this memorable day to reflect on one of the major thrusts of President Biya's 7th term.
The Cameroon will grow because of decentralization. It's very important for each of us. Our country will be developed.
The uncompromising role of these local development actors was diagnosed by India Simbi, an expert on local governance, whose presentation highlighted the functioning of the council institution and how the councillors have to identify effective strategies to enable decentralization to fully play its role as a driving force for local development. Akonolinga will continue to support the visions of the head of state.
In the Jah and Lobo division of the South region, CPDM bigwigs have been urged to lay aside their differences and work together for a landslide victory in the upcoming regional elections. As we hear in this report by Clarence Azay.
Hospital, the Ultramodern Market, the Cameroon-Congo Interstate University and the Yaoundé-Libreville Transnational Highway are some of the glaring achievements of the New Deal government worth celebrating in the Jah and Lobo division. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and in conformity with the circular of the Secretary General of the Central Committee of the CPDM, a restricted number of bigwigs and sympathizers gathered at the Samilima Party House to celebrate 38 years of rigor, moralization, experience, peace and social cohesion.
It gave us the opportunity to talk about all what he has been doing for the country in general and for our region. And that means that we have to stand by him. We have to be with him because the country is facing a lot of difficulties.
Minister Louis Paul urged the party's followers to close ranks and massively participate in the upcoming regional election.
It was the opportunity to let people know what is a regional assembly.
The meeting, void of the usual effervescence and pomp of November 6, equally provided an occasion for a frank dialogue for the good of the CPDM in the Jah and Lobo division.
And we didn't see that effervescence in Gaoundere, where the inhabitants have been talking of the achievements of the New Deal since Paul Biya's accession to power. Adamawa's patriarch El Haj Muhammadu Aboh Usmanu says from education to socio-economic domains, much has been done for the well-being of the population. Let's get this report from Gaoundere Elise Waji Banmia.
As the population of the Adamawa observed the 38th anniversary of President Paul Biya's ascension to the Supreme Magistracy, these same major developmental projects have marked this period, and they are glad.
The actions of our president are very visible. The construction of roads, the Gaoundere Referral Hospital, low-cost housing facilities, and the Bini Hydroelectric Dam, which are very helpful.
Apart from these projects, many say the president's will to fight against hostage-taking and the demand for ransom has greatly restored peace in the Adamawa.
La paix, l'unité nationale. Peace, unity, and living together are realities in our region today, thanks to the head of state.
dans notre pays.
In Ngaoundéré, President Paul Biya is considered today as a man of his words and a catalyst of development.
Well, let's get over to the Northwest region, where this day gives party supporters an opportunity to once again praise the New Deal's achievements in the areas of education, health, and the decentralization process. One of the key achievements they are celebrating is the creation of the University of Bamenda. Eric Lamia Wofo.
They are observing a minute of silence for victims of the Kumba massacre as they gather to celebrate their national president. The permanent regional coordinator of the CPDM for the Northwest has identified the crisis in the region as one of the threats to President Paul Biya's desire to see peace reign, and says the president is working towards putting an end to the ongoing stalemate.
President Paul Biya remains a man of peace. This is not the first time in the world where you have troubles in the country, and you can be sure the state will find solutions and we will get back to the complete peace we've known in the past.
Coming on the eve of the holding of the regional elections following the granting of the special status, the CPDM supporters in the Northwest are upbeat that their national chairman is determined to fast-track the development of the region.
We are celebrating 38 years of President Paul Biya. He's putting to conclusion the 1996 Constitution. It represents the power to the people.
The celebration was also an opportunity for the CPDM supporters to strategize for the successful organization of the December 6th regional elections.
I was rather Mesikusi in the place of Eric Langmia Wofo. Now let's go over to Lolodorf. CPDM party militants of the North Wing section in Lolodorf are working on campaign strategies to give a resounding victory to their candidates in the upcoming regional council election. This was the key resolution at the end of a meeting to mark the anniversary of Paul Biya's accession to power. On the meeting and motion of support to President Paul Biya, here is Ewane Epole.
In respect of COVID-19 measures, CPDM party militants of the North Wind section in Lolodorf, Ocean Division, organized a working session to mark the celebration of the 38th anniversary of President Paul Biya's ascension to power. On the occasion, the head of the permanent divisional delegation for the Ocean, Jules Dorek Ndongo, had an exchange with the militants.
We have to discuss on some topics: the atmosphere after the elections, the oncoming regional elections, and decentralization. We have brought a message of appeasement, of calm. Everyone, despite the anger after selection, to vote for CPDM when regional elections next 6th of December.
The North Wind Section President of the CPDM in Lolodorf, René Félicien Mbala, and party followers joined their voices by addressing a motion of support to the head of state, Paul Biya.
The wearing of face masks in public places will be mandatory until further notice.
Let's get now into the second canto and talk about our fight against the coronavirus pandemic. Cameroon's indomitable lions will begin arriving in Douala this Sunday ahead of their training camp to prepare for their game against Mozambique. During the training, there will be a lot of control to ensure that the players do not transmit or get the coronavirus pandemic, since most of them are from Europe, where there is the second wave of the coronavirus. On these controls, Samar Baldwin engages his guest, team doctor of the indomitable lions, Professor William Gachu, on measures put in place so far for that. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening to you, Benin Bumagana. We all know the indomitable Lions of Cameroon begin camping this Sunday in the nation's economic capital ahead of their qualifying match against Mozambique due for Douala on November 12 and 16 for the 2022 Africa Cup of Nations. What are just some of these anti-COVID measures that must be respected by some of these players who will be in camp? Our guest tonight is Professor William Gachu. He is a team doctor of Cameroon's indomitable Lions. Professor William Gachu, good evening.
Good evening.
Tell us, Prof, most of the players called to come for the indomitable Lions of Cameroon come from France, where we have noticed this second wave as far as the coronavirus is concerned. So, what measures have been put in place at the level of the Lions Den to avoid any contamination within the Lions Den?
As I told you last time, in the indomitable Lion camp, we have set up several measurements to avoid COVID-19. It starts early before the camp in the hotel. All the staff members and players have to perform a COVID-19 PCR test to be sure that when we start the test, everybody is free of COVID. Upon we start the test, we have set up also several wear of masks every time, wash hand, and so on.
And finally, Prof, in the dressing rooms, how is it going to operate? Will there be respect of physical distancing when the players will be in the dressing rooms? How will it operate?
Of course, CAF and FIFA already put on a protocol. I mean that in the dressing room have to wear a mask. They have to keep the social distanciation, and also we cannot share bottles. And the masks, for example, are only removed when the staff training before getting on the pitch.
Thank you so much, Professor William Ngachu. Remind our viewers that you are the team doctor of Cameroon's indomitable Lions. Benin Bumagana, tomorrow Saturday we begin our tour to the different regions of Cameroon as we will take you to the southwest region of the country. Back to you, Benin Bumagana.
Sama van Kmer, and please take good care of yourself. American election officials are yet to complete the vote count of more than 15 million people who cast their votes in Tuesday's election. Just 6 states are yet to complete their count out of the 50 states in the United States. Neither President Trump nor his challenger Joe Biden has reached the 270 Electoral College votes to claim victory. Charles Ebune tells us more.
A recount of votes ordered in the state of Georgia with 16 Electoral College votes as the magic number of 270 to become President of the United States is yet to be clinched by any of the two candidates. The latest hold of Joe Biden's lead in Pennsylvania, his birth state, plus Nevada and Arizona, the key battle states to determine the White House race. Earlier today, East Coast American time, the President Donald Trump renewed claims of voter fraud, talking of legal and illegal votes, easily refuted even by members of his political party, including Senator Mitt Romney, one-time presidential candidate. The security clearance team at the residence of candidate Joe Biden in Delaware was reinforced with the sending of more Secret Agent Service protection team and a no-fly zone imposed by American aviation authorities over his residence. Tonight, America is yet to know its future president with certainty 3 days after an election.
And in sports, the 4th edition of the African Open in Judo will take place this weekend at the Multi-Sports Complex in Yaoundé. The African Open is expected to bring together athletes from 15 different countries to compete for points that qualify for the next Olympic Games. For more, Bodi Sama comes back.
Last-minute preparations at the Yaoundé Multipurpose Sports Complex as the 8 different delegations already in Yaoundé are busy with registration formalities, with rehearsals also visible. 15 countries were expected at the beginning of this competition, but not all will be present due to the coronavirus pandemic.
It's very, very good for us to host this competition because we have to improve ourselves and we have to go forward with African judo and to make a lot of points for African athletes.
Cameroon defending champions with their different athletes are looking forward to this competition.
The objective for the Cameroon athletes is to mark the point for ranking list for qualifier or at the Olympic game.
This Saturday and Sunday, the different athletes will compete for the available medals.
Thank you very much. We've come to the end of the 7:30 news. The next edition of the newscast will be at 8:30, and this time with Karine Olive Yabit. It's a good night from us. God bless you.
In this connection, we should avoid stigmatizing